we have this mission statement about enriching the traveler journey. That could be a flight, could be a vacation or life.
I'm joined by Richard from MileagePlus and Mark from BCG. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Richard, with Connective Media, you've sort of launched a really bold new step in retail media. Give us a sense of how that came about and what you think the biggest potential is for where it goes.
Well, thanks for being here. So this is our first year anniversary. Well, first and foremost, we're not retail. We're sort of commerce. And the reason why it's important is I think there's three key things. We've got to have scale of audience, which we do. We flew 174 million people last year. Quality of audience, they're real people, not bots. They fly. And we've obviously got very solid data around that. And then we have multiple screens during the journey, right? So when you're being inspired for travel.com, the app, that interaction on the day of travel. If you happen to be in a lounge, there's screens there, the gate information display at the gate, and then the big one is obviously in-flight. Right. That is the most addressable screen out there. The average dwell time's like 3.5 hours, and they're strapped in. And then obviously we can go off-site, so when you're at home on an IP-enabled device. So the year one was all about enabling the capabilities and joining all those dots up. And then really sort of going forward, it's really about sort of the scaling of partnerships. And there's, I guess, three key messages. One is Starlink, which maybe we'll talk about, and that's a game changer in the sky. The Wi-Fi capability is just second to none. And then there's sort of partnerships, an ecosystem, because we're about enriching the traveler journey. So it's about the flight, because interestingly, the average time to plan and book a vacation is 16 hours.
Wow.
It's a long time, right? Which, when you think about it, we've all done it, that's a lot of time. So how can we enrich? So yes, you'll plan your flight, but how can you enrich all the things around it? Events and travel and hotels and car rental activities, dining, all that kind of stuff. And then we also announced this week we had a thesis that we could syndicate the technology to other airlines. And we've announced the first one, which is JetBlue. So we're going to deploy our underlying technology to another airline.
Wow.
And do the same thing with them. So it's exciting. Yeah, we've done a lot, I guess.
Congratulations. Yeah, it underscores everything that we just published in our latest report around commerce media and retail media, and commerce media fueling the growth of the entire sector and this new profit stream for all businesses. So I think the richness of the data you have on travel intent, the captive audiences, as you said, you have, we're going to see more of that.
And Richard, just explain, you advise brands on sort of personalization engines. What is it about travel data in particular? Obviously the captive audience, as you've mentioned, but what is it that makes that such a powerful asset?
It is a journey, right? It starts with inspiration and dreaming of that next travel experience, and then getting there on the trip and even post-trip. And each of those steps offers an experience to connect with customers. You know the customer in each of those steps, and with your loyalty data, you can continue that conversation. So I think travel is one of the most engaged and immersive experiences out there, and that's why the power to have that conversation is so valuable.
MileagePlus is already an incredibly powerful sort of loyalty ecosystem. How do you plan to build on the loyalty?
My background is sort of data tech and media. I'm not necessarily a loyalty specialist. And if you think about, I think the challenge I've laid down to the team and frankly the industry, loyalty programs, whether you're a retailer or whether you're an airline, if you think about it, haven't actually changed that much in like 25, 30 years. Yeah. What we've got more sophisticated about is understanding the data. And whether that's a non-member or a member, certainly from a United, we understand that we built our what's called an ID spine. So we really understand exactly members and non-members, and we've enriched that with a partner called TransUnion just to understand like lifestyle attributes, social demographic. So we're pretty solid on the data. That's foundational. And this week in Cannes, everyone's talking about AI and Gen AI. It's nascent. We're not there yet, but I think we've got to build it on the basis of the data, and that's foundational. And then, as I think I mentioned, we have this mission statement about enriching the traveler journey. That could be a flight, could be a vacation or life. So we're now talking about how, again, through those partnerships, around how you think about travel and all the associated constituent parts of what will enable an awesome vacation, a business trip, a weekend away, whatever that may be. And I think where AI comes in, and we are testing this, is when I go away, I use ChatGPT and I say, right, I'm going to Cape Town for 7 nights. I want to do some hiking. I want to go to some great restaurants. I want to do some beach action. And it comes, and I want to stay in a nice hotel or do some vineyard stuff. Full itinerary, like hour by hour. That's awesome. So it gives you the inspiration of things to do without blowing 16 hours to try and think about that sort of stuff. But then the challenge is, how do you execute that? All right, so you get the itinerary, great, and then you have to go off on the 17 things that is listed to go and book that stuff. So we're now thinking about how we can sort of bring that into our ecosystem to empower in one place. So then, yes, book your flight. That's usually the first thing people do, is book the flight to said destination and then do the planning around it. And if we can enrich travelers' life, which will in turn, long-winded answer to your question, is drive greater brand loyalty, right, and stick within our ecosystem. That, I think, will be the game changer. The industry's there. The tech's not really there, but we're training models around how we sort of think about that. So that's how we're thinking about this next generation of loyalty, which is, I think, really, really exciting.
You mentioned your partnership with Spotify.
Yep.
What makes a great collaboration in this space?
All the partners now that we've announced as Spotify and Vivid Seats and literally yesterday, and there'll be more, is 4 pillars. Technologically deep. So with Spotify, it's a full deep integration of their app in our seatback. Data orientated, right? Deep and rich data. So on both sides, we choosing our partners driven by, we can see what they spend with our Chase credit card relationship, and therefore what partners, whether it's ride shares, which, is it both? Where's the bias? So we're very strategic. And then obviously for both partners commercially, there has to be incrementality, right? So not just a partner